You may have felt intense attraction in the past to an emotionally unavailable partner, and now you may be in a healthy relationship and you don't. I am Pauline, and I am so happy you are here because maybe now you're in a healthy relationship or you're in a healthier place, and you're noticing that in these healthy relationships, these safe, secure relationships that you're either in or working towards, everything is better than in your past relationships or dating phases with emotionally unavailable partners, but the attraction is missing. The intense attraction, the desire, the longing, and it feels like you're almost caught in between. Either the relationship is not healthy, maybe even really toxic, um, with an emotionally unavailable partner, or you're in a healthy relationship and communication is good and they really love you and they see you and they care for you and they take care of you and they support you and like all the things are good, but it feels like your sexuality is kind of shut off. So frustrating, right? But there are so many very logical reasons why this happens when you're a fearful avoidant. When you know you've got the fearful avoidant attachment style, it just makes so much sense that this happens. One of the main reasons is that in every relationship, there's a partner, one of the partners, that controls the intensity of the connection. And it's pretty much always the fearful avoidant. So when you're a fearful avoidant, that means that you are the one controlling connection. That doesn't feel like it when you're with an emotionally unavailable partner. It feels like they are controlling the connection, right? You're working and you're working and you want their approval, you want the connection, you want to be close, and they sometimes decide that they will, and a lot of times they won't. And that just makes you feel empty and frustrated and disappointed and worthless. And so it feels like they have all the control. But when we look at connection, controlling connection, which is something all fearful avoidants do, it's actually logical that you're in a relationship with with an emotionally unavailable partner, because you get to control the connection. Because what happens when you don't do anything, when you don't work for it, when you don't please them, when you don't try to be what you think they want you to be? Nothing happens. There's no connection because the emotionally unavailable partner is just completely happy on their little island, and you don't have connection. And this sounds like you don't want that, but what you really need to know when you're a fearful avoidant is that at the core of the fearful avoidant attachment style is the fear of connection. Very generally speaking, when you have the anxious preoccupied attachment style, you have a fear of abandonment, and when you have the dismissive avoidant attachment style, you have the fear of commitment. Then, very generally speaking, the one that doesn't get talked about is the fearful avoidance fear of connection, which is just as big and just as impactful as the other two. You want to be in a relationship, but you're really scared to let people come close. And when they come close, you push them away. And so what can happen, and happens a lot when you're a fearful avoidant, is that you get into a relationship with an emotionally unavailable partner, and in a way it feels safe because they never come too close. They never really try to connect or are really open for connection the whole time. And so whenever you don't want connection, you just don't do anything and there's no connection. So there's always that kind of almost like safe haven. It can feel like that. But all the other things feel horrible, of course. You not being seen, you not getting the attention or the love that you crave and you absolutely deserve and are worthy of. So there's a lot of things that don't feel good. But that's why it's so important to understand this core fear for the fearful avoidant attachment style, which is the fear of connection, because you are in control of the intensity of connection, and you manage that. When you want connection, you work for it, and then you get it, you're happy, and then you back off, and then the connection is broken again, and there is no connection. And that is exactly what kind of feels safe for your nervous system. Safe in a this it feels familiar way, so not safe in this feels good way. So that is one of the core reasons why you feel very attracted to emotionally unavailable partners, because it feels safe to desire them. It feels safe to want them, because the connection will only happen when you work really hard for it. Now just imagine being in a healthy relationship when you have the fear of connection. You have a partner who is safe and secure, who loves you, who adores you, who is there for you, who supports you, is just amazing. And they're always willing to connect. They're always open to connection. All of a sudden, you have to control the connection, because that's what you do when you fear connection. But you have to do it in a very different way. You're not working to get the connection, to get the approval, to get the attention. All of a sudden, you have to be working to keep your partner at a distance that feels safe enough right now for you and your nervous system. You can heal all of that, and when you've healed, you won't manage it like this anymore. You won't have to push your partner away. You don't have to control connection like that. But it makes sense that you do right now. And all of a sudden, you have to say no. You have to put up boundaries. You have to actually feel what you need in this moment. Are you open to connection? Can your nervous system handle it right now? And that is so scary when you haven't learned how to say no, and when you have learned that that is selfish, and you don't do that when you really love someone. So that creates this really tense situation that you feel, because constantly there's this possibility for connection, and your partner probably tries to connect, and you are scared of that because of all kinds of negative associations around connection. I have a lot of videos about that from when you were younger, from when you were brought up. And so it becomes a matter of keeping your partner at a distance, and that sounds like you're always pushing them away. That's not true. You do let them come close sometimes, but that's very scary for you. So probably after you've been close in whatever way, not just sex or intimacy, but you kind of need space again, and then you push them away, and that can happen gently, and it can happen very forcefully. There's a million ways in which that happens. Again, I have videos on that. So, but you're still the one controlling the connection. But doesn't it make a whole lot of sense that in that situation, you're not desiring your partner, you're not longing for your partner, because your whole system consistently is trying to keep your partner at a distance that feels safe, that feels like you can handle it, that feels manageable right now. And being attracted or desiring somebody is pulling somebody in close. So it makes sense that when you have a healthy relationship with a partner who is willing to connect, and you have the fear of connection, that you don't feel that intense attraction, that intense desire, because it has no room to build. It's scary, because that means that your safe, secure, loving partner will come really close, which is one of your core fears. So it makes so much sense. And when you've healed, you do get to have both. You get to have that safe, secure, beautiful, very good feeling, nourishing relationship, and attraction and desire and longing. And it's kind of like the best of both worlds. And it won't feel as it will feel different, because you'll notice that it will feel like it's calmer. It's not fear driven connection. It's not fear driven attraction. It's way more anchored. It's way more, it feels safer, and because of that, richer and deeper. So There's a few other reasons. This was the very most important one. I just wanted to give you that straight away. But there are a few other reasons why you did feel very attracted to your emotionally unavailable partner, as a fearful avoidant, and not as much in a healthy relationship. I was just thinking, I already made a video about this too, but it's such an important topic. So here are new things. Aside from you controlling the connection, with an emotionally unavailable partner, there is the moment that you get approval. There's the moment that they actually see you, that they want to connect, that they do come a little bit closer. And that can give you an actual high, a real physiological high. And that high can be very addictive. So working for something really hard, performing, proving that you're good enough, that you're worthy, can feel good when there's that high of approval every now and then. And your body and your system actually can get really addicted to that. When I was healing this, it really was healing the addiction to that approval. I needed to release that. I needed to neutralize that in order to not get back into the loop of working really hard and finding just available connection boring, because my body was just still so addicted to wanting that high from approval. And as long as I would have that, I would want to work for it. It would feel weird and off and not right to just get it without working. And I would miss that peak intensity moment, that high from approval. And so I needed to release the positive associations, the high that I would get from approval. So the positive associations that I had around this getting approval moment, in order to be able to dive into the richness and the nourishing feeling of just constant connection, and there is no approval or no approval. It's just complete love and acceptance. So your body can actually be addicted to this. And that working for that high for approval kind of also corresponds with your highs and lows, with the highs and lows that are just very natural for the fearful avoidant attachment style, that you work for something really hard and then you get it and then you retreat, then you go back into sometimes it's a shame spiral, sometimes it's a guilt trip, sometimes it's a vulnerability hangover or whiplash, but it's always back to feeling kind of bad about yourself, because that is what you've been brought up with. You need to feel bad about yourself because feeling bad is the only way you will change, the only way you will improve. And so fearful avoidant parents use feeling bad and use shame and use guilt, even with good intentions, but that will cause you to always go back to that. So you work really hard to get something that feels positive, a high from approval, you get connection, you get attention. But your body, your nervous system, your energetic system is just not ready yet to sustain that. It can't hold that. And so what happens is that you get these highs and lows. You get these peak experiences and then the really deep crashes, which are not fun. But with an emotionally unavailable partner, when you have those highs and lows, the very convenient thing is that you can blame them for the fact that you're retreating, or that you're not connected, because they are the one that retreat first. They are the one that are emotionally unavailable. And so what I found the most confusing when I had a healthy relationship with a safe, secure partner is that I couldn't blame him. And I mean blame, I wasn't blaming him outright. I was just, in my head, it was so much easier when I had the emotionally unavailable partners, um, because I could say, well, it's their fault. It's their fault. And so I didn't have to look at myself. And now I had a healthy, secure, safe partner who was just always willing to connect, and that was just dealing with myself so much more, which is way harder way harder than just following the familiar patterns, which is why I'm always so grateful that you're here, because you're doing a courageous thing. You might not feel like it. You might feel like you have to heal and you have to compensate, or you have to. No, you're doing such a courageous thing to do something that it really is harder, to self-reflect and to deal with your own fears and your own beliefs. That's amazing. That's amazing that you're doing this. Another reason is that why you felt very attracted to emotionally unavailable partners is that it gives intense emotion. So that high that I was just talking about, intense emotions feel just very familiar to your system, and you want them, but it also feels off when they're not there. That's um how how do you say that? How familiar they feel. So out of all the insecure attachment styles, so the dismissive avoidant, the anxious preoccupied, and the fearful avoidant, what is very typical for the fearful avoidant attachment style is this intense emotional volatility, but also this craving for intense emotions. So the fearful avoidant attachment style, out of all of them, is the most connected to or related to feelings. You put feelings on a pedestal. The more intense the feelings are, the better it is. And there's you let yourself be led by feelings and emotions and the intensity of them a lot. And so what happens when you're with an emotionally unavailable partner and they retreat a lot, like they pull back, they don't text you for days, that's a very radical out. So if you would imagine, in every relationship, connection is not a steady thing. It's not like in healthy relationships, people are connected and that's it. Like they're always one. That's not how connection naturally goes. It ebbs and flows. So you have connection, and then kind of you take a little bit of space for yourself, and then you come back together, and that is very normal and very healthy, that it ebbs and flows. Feelings ebb and flow, and that feels scary for a fearful avoidant that just wants that intense emotion and that intense feeling constantly, because in a way it brings safety. It feels safe. But when you're with an emotionally unavailable partner, that out is not a little bit out and just taking time for yourself, but staying kind of close. It's like they're three doors over. And so the out is very radical. And when the out is further away, the in becomes more intense too. So it becomes this, and it becomes more intense. And that can feel good when your body, your nervous system, you're still used to those intense emotions. So again, you have positive associations around something that is not healthy in the long term for your body, because this very radical kind of pattern is not sustainable. It's not nourishing. It's very depleting, and it's very exhausting in the long term. You may have noticed this. You may have experienced this. So it is such a liberation to untangle, release the positive associations that you have with these unhealthy patterns. And it's so needed, because you can't heal by just focusing on the things you don't want. You can't heal by just focusing on, I don't want these negative feelings anymore. It is so important to also heal the positive associations you have around unhealthy patterns and unhealthy mechanisms. So the actual wanting them, which can be hard to acknowledge to yourself. And the positive associations or the negative association you have around positive things. You may assume, and maybe even your therapist may assume, that you want to feel love and you want to feel loved and taken care of and supported. But there's probably a lot of negative associations around that when you're struggling with the fearful avoidant attachment style. And it is so important. It is so important to release those, because if you don't, the healing journey is just going to take so much longer. It's going to be so much more complicated. And you just get keep getting pulled back into relapses. It's just something that gets overlooked so often. Can you see how passionate I am about this? Um, and another thing with the emotionally unavailable partner, which makes that attraction more intense and feel good, is that you have the illusion of a fantasy relationship, that when they finally want you, when you are good enough, when you are perfect, um, then the relationship will be amazing, because then it will feel like the highs all the time. And this is completely unrealistic, not sustainable, and just not true. And it is so important to know that, because otherwise you're chasing something that will just never work. It's a bubble that pops. Um so it's almost like that intense attraction you feel is an attraction to perfectionism. It's an attraction to an image you have of a relationship, of what it could be, but it can never be, because that high intensity moment is not based on actual love, or um, something that can be sustained for a long time. And this may not be a fun thing to hear, but believe me that when you've healed, you will look back at that and you will see it as junk food. You know, you can eat junk food and it might taste good. I don't like junk food, but it might taste good in that moment, but it's not good for you in the long run. It makes you feel horrible right after. It's just, there's nothing nourishing about it. Whereas when you eat nourishing meals and your palate changes, and so you just taste so much more, and it's just the absolute best. That is what a healthy relationship will look like. But where your palate needs to change for a healthy food, your nervous system needs to change, and your fear brain needs to change, and your fear system needs to change, in order for a healthy relationship to feel really good, better than those highs that were fear driven and trauma driven ever felt. So it makes so much sense. This whole dynamic makes so much sense. But the fact that it feels good doesn't mean that it's good. And the fact that a healthy relationship, you're missing that attraction and desire and longing, doesn't mean that it's not coming. It just means that there's healing to be done. And it's when you understand these patterns, and when you understand the fear brain, and when you understand the core wounds and the deepest roots of the fearful avoidant attachment style, you can heal this. You can heal those, and you will be able to so fully enjoy a healthy relationship, which can just be deepened for the rest of your life, can be expanded for the rest of your life, and feel exciting and just so good for the rest of your life. And that is what I want for you. So if that's what you want, Healed and Happy is here for you. It's the program that I've made that has been running for 4 years now already, and it's just so freaking amazing because it just works and I love it. And it's oh, man, the transformations are just so beautiful to see. Um and it's completely specialized in the fearful avoidant attachment style. That's why I made it, because there's so much misinformation about the fearful avoidant attachment style. Um, and that just costs you a lot of extra years of healing, a lot of extra frustration, feeling like you're broken, like nobody understands you. And that's what I don't want. That's what I don't want for you. That's why I do this channel. That's why I love making these videos, so that you know that all of this makes sense, you make sense, and we can just heal it. And when you've healed, you'll look back on patterns like this and you'll say, gosh, I thought that was like the peak experience, but it was nowhere near the peak experience. So find that link in the description below, and let me know in the comments what you think of this and what you recognize out of this. Does this ring a bell? I really want to know. I so appreciate you being here. I'm so happy you're here, and I will see you in the next one. Healed and Happy is a tailor-made online program where me and my team personally guide you through healing the roots of the fearful avoidant attachment style.